Good evening and welcome to JamboFANTV. This is your temporary host for the evening, Scott. Hi, how are you all doing? I've got Scott Wallace with me and I've also got Gordon, just to see if we can try and pick away at what's caused the result last night. For anyone who's been living under a rock, it was Hibs 3, Hearts 1. Now, I was thinking, in terms of how we play this out tonight, guys, the fans have got so many different sort of ideas and suggestions as to what's causing this probably woes with regards to the derby over the recent seasons. So in terms of the first question, I'm just wanting to put it out to you, firstly with you, Scott, where do you think this stems from? Do you think that this is something that's been sort of regressing over 2 or 3 years, or would you say that this is something where we just need to look at it as a one-off result and just try and focus now on the future?
I think the culture last night was lacking in terms of these new players coming in. Did they really know? I mean, it's a football match at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter who we're playing. They should have been up for it. But I don't think there was any fight. There wasn't what you could consider the fact that was needed to get us through an Edinburgh derby. There was no. I mean, the first half there wasn't a shot. Let alone a shot on target. So I think some work needs to be done there in terms of it. I know I'm probably going off on a tangent, Scott, but in terms of leading us, we had to wait to the second half for a 19-year-old lad to come on and show us how it was done. So yeah, we're going to have to put our heads down and get on with the next match. But I think the culture needs to be up. They were up for that. We weren't.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much 100% spot on with regards to that mentality. I think Hibs now have, we mentioned it a little bit after the 0-0 game previously on the show about continuity, and sometimes that seems to bring out the best in teams in these types of situations. You've saw that happen to Hibs in previous years, where under Femlin, Butcher and Calderwood, there was constant changes with staff, with players, with management. When it came to derby games, we still had that nucleus of guys, whether it be Zaliukas, Ian Black, Ryan McGowan, Scatchell, guys that had, for all respect to some of those guys, not the world's greatest players, but they knew what it took to win a derby game. And I just think there's going to be a little bit of pain to go through short term, I think, with Hearts just now. I don't think this is something that we are going to fix, during the next few months. I was quite positive yesterday and well when we recorded the preview show. And a lot of what I was wanting to say was, well, yeah, we'll win 2-0, but a lot of that was me just leading with my heart. To be honest, when common sense prevailed, you could see that Hibs had that winning mentality. They had the tempo, they had the drive, and they had the application. And we haven't really shown yet under Cathro that we can do that, apart from when we've played Rangers, who really play a similar way to how we do with regards to tempo and playing through the back. So, yeah, I have to agree with you there with regards to what happened. Gordon, what was your sort of view of where you were in the stands?
Last night's game, I think, going back probably since Robbie Nielsen took over, we've felt our way into every single game pretty much that we've played. Whereas the Hibs are diving into tackles and their fans are on their feet and they're cheering and they're giving it loud, and the players are taking great encouragement for that. I actually thought last night Hibs can't possibly keep up this pace, but towards the end, they were the team that was still going forward and absolutely busting a gut to chase lost causes and stuff like that. And we were absolutely not at the races last night. Pretty shameful, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, again, it just seems to be a mentality thing. I remember going to Easter Road prior to the last 2 or 3 seasons, and a few of my Hibs mates were asking me, what's the difference between Hearts and Hibs in these matches? I'm for a generation of guys that have been conditioned to seeing Hearts come out on top more often than not, being at the age that I'm at. And I said, well, you know what? It comes for everything. It's the fans' expectation. It's Scott Wilson geeing up the fans at half time. It's bringing out Derby Day heroes at half time. It's playing music to try and wind up the away fans. I listened to the Hibs announcer last night and I'm like, they have actually got a bit of that swagger now. They never used to gee themselves up before derby games and even at half time. And they just seem to have that confidence now. And I think as much as we were poor last night, I think you sometimes just got to take your hat off and admit that the other team of just getting it spot on with regards to these matches. Would you say that that would be a fair assessment, Scott?
Definitely. I mean, just from another fan's perspective, as you know, I've just done the review with a Hibs fan, Craig, and he said the same. He thinks that Hibs have got the measure of us basically now. He said there used to be times when he used to fear coming, over, but not anymore. And he said it showed last night. In terms of, he said it started with the fans. He said they never shut up. The drum was beating. And he said that just lifted the players. He said they had the manager to be able to lift them. He said, and every player was up. He said every tackle that they went in for, they took the ball, they took the man, and that's what you need in a derby match. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a difficult one. Like I said, it's not something that you're going to change within a month or two. We just weren't at the races.
And this is what we go back to then with regards to sort of timescales. So a lot of what's been talked about today is, well, do we get rid of Caffro? Do we get rid of Levine? Now, in terms of Caffro, you look at how long he's been at the club, 13 games. He's had to oversee 9 new players incoming. He's had to oversee players leaving, long-term injury. And this is all mid-season as well. This is not off the back of having a squad that you've inherited, even just for a pre-season, to try and get your ideas across. Gordon, I'm going to throw this question to you. Do you think that a lot of the backlash against Caffro, again, is stemming to what has happened in previous seasons in the Cup?
I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest. When Cathro came in, like everybody else, you had a slight bit of scepticism along with the excitement that this guy might be the real deal, might be the man who could change the face of Scottish football, not just Hearts. But I did say at the time, though, he's not going to get an awful lot of time because he's lacking history in football, if you like. I mean, he's not going to get, arguably, John Robertson never got an awful lot of time with us, but if it had been a Robbo, then they would be probably more inclined to accept what's going on now and a wee bit of change, and his idea is going to be taking us forward. But I think you're right, there's a lot of knee-jerk stuff last night, for myself included actually. Craig Levine's my favourite player of all time, and I'm beginning to wonder if all the slowness is stemming from him, all the marvellous ideas. Cathro's just having to deal with what's the sort of hand he's been given. But no, it's a difficult one. I desperately want to give him time, but I don't know if he'll get that time. There's a lot of guys that are just not happy at all at the moment. But it's fair enough, you can't argue it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the fans, I think we'll touch on this maybe later on in the show, but there's probably a role that the fans need to now take, and I think a little bit is to do with just sucking it up and just getting on with it. What I've tended to notice is the ones who over-egg or wins are the ones who are first to get on the back of them when they have a bad day at the office. And I just think if that's the case, don't dish it out if you can't take it. And I think there is an element of social media coming into play now with sort of football supporters today. A lot of them are so hard on their sleeve on these social media platforms that when it comes to them losing a match, they get so upset because they know that for that week and up to it, everything will be recorded now with regards to how much goading there's been, and if they've made comments about, oh, we're going to get into these tramps or these rats or whatever they might say. And I think the fans now have to take that into consideration, play their expectation down a bit. And I'm not talking about last night, just talking about in general. Last night was unacceptable. There's no way we can address that in any other way apart from saying that the players let us down. But Scott, would you say that the fans now need to try and make a bit more of an effort, and rather than waiting the team trying to raise the tempo and try and lift our spirits, maybe we just need to be a little bit more positively vocal just now, not just in the Hibs games but overall?
I think definitely. I think you mentioned social media, and there was a petition going around for a singing section, which I agree with. So I took on board what Gordon was saying the other week about you've got kids and OAPs and the likes all dotted around. and that may be a reason why it's so quiet. But yeah, just to try and yourself when you're getting praise, it certainly helps. When you're getting booed off at half time, it's difficult. It is. It's difficult for you. And I think I was sitting 2 seats away from Gordon when we played Rangers. It was fantastic. I came back talking about it. You've got to take those kind of games or these kind of games. Last night, though, if I'm going to say, Scott, was slightly different to losing in terms of, if we'd have lost 3-1 and we'd have played well and they'd have played better, easier to take. That was just a shocking performance. And when you was talking about the manager, I hope that he can turn it round because I think he's got something, and I think he's got ideas that can improve us. But then on the flip side of that, I start to think about coaches that become managers, and Steve McLaren comes straight into mind in terms of fantastic coach with a lot of good ideas that most teams would have as a number two. Not many people want him as a number one. Does our gaffer come into that category?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, and I mean, I'm definitely one of these guys who thinks that Cathro needs at least 18 months. I think he needs 2 proper transfer windows, not like the one that he's had to do just now, where it's been short-term surgery, and we'll address that maybe later on in the show with regards to, have we noticed already players that we want to keep, players that we want to see moving on after this summer. But Gordon, just briefly on Cathro, how much of last night do you think lays at his feet? And do you feel that the players did not respond to his instructions, or do you think they responded to his instructions too well, and that maybe guys like Kitchen and Julius really needed to step up and say, you know what, this isn't working well the first 20 minutes, we need to change it about a little bit and play with a bit more of an increased tempo?
Yeah, that's what I said the other night there in the preview. They set up, funny enough, exactly the same as I thought they would. It was a 4-2-3-1. I honestly thought that Julius and Kitchen would press forward and try and put McGinn under pressure, and that way get Doom and Walker in and about Bartley. But yeah, like I said earlier on, we just want to feel our way into games. Julius is just happy sitting in front. Unfortunately, he doesn't look like a Derby player. He's just happy sitting in front of the defence, rolling at 6 yards sideways. I thought tactically, change the tact here a wee bit. That Hibs got it spot on. Hibs won the ball off us 30-40 yards for their own goals. They didn't push us that high, really. But then immediately they got it wide to Gray, and he battered that up the line and let Boyle race against Soa. And it was just basic Derby tactics, get the ball forward quick. And I think that's how they done us. We basically got 1-on-1 down the left-hand side, our left-hand side. As I said, they played perfect Derby football, Hibs, last night, and it was, you're right, it's like watching us 10 years ago. Maybe even less than 10 years ago, but yeah, it was...
Exactly.
It was just like an old Hearts performance they put in last night. It was impressive.
I would agree, and I think that I heard so many people coming out the stands last night, and again, when we have a bad performance, Craig Levein tends to be the first name that gets brought up, not just with the fans, but by certain sections of the media as well. For me, though, it can't be, praise the gaffer for the wins and then decide to have a go at the directory of football for the defeats. He's either got to get equal praise and sort of negativity rather than just, one extreme to the next. Matt, I have to admit, if that had been a Craig Levein side, I don't think you would have saw a similar outcome to that. Yeah, we lost derbies under Craig Levein like we have done under any manager, but I don't think you would have seen us surrender just so neatly. Going on to the players now, Scott. Now, one of the things that's been mentioned today by some supporters is this sort of idea that we've got too many foreign players in the squad just now. Now, my history's a little bit hazy, but I've seen plenty of foreign guys come in and be a match winner for Hearts and derbies. But I think it's a valid point to an extent. What I've noticed with the recruitment under the sort of Nielsen/Levine sort of stewardship was we've brought in guys like June, so Foster, guys with decent pedigrees, guys who have played well for us in other games, but for some reason haven't quite shown up in the derbies. Again, is this just down to them not having that mentality? Is that something you've thought about at all?
I think it's like you said, derbies are different, aren't they? You know, the form book goes out of the window, so to speak. There's a certain style about it, and I don't think. How do I put it? I don't think we had leadership. I think that's a massive thing. You know, when you've got, I mean, the captain goes off at half time. I think that was a biggie. You know, that said a lot. We didn't have anybody out there talking, geeing people up. If we had some people on there, the Walkers should have been doing that, geeing people up. He knows what it means. He's around the city. He knows what it means. Why have we not got talkers? Fair enough, the forward. I mean, if we were going to use that argument in terms of, you know, I'll come down into the English league, you know, Chelsea wouldn't be up for playing Tottenham. You know, there's probably not one Englishman in the bloody side. And the same with Arsenal and people like that. I think these people need to come in and they need to be integrated into the culture of the club. I tweeted it. Take them to the bloody museum. You know, show them the history of the club. Show them what it means. You know, get it ingrained in them, and then from there we need leaders. We ain't got leaders at the club, and we ain't got anybody that's prepared to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, whether you're foreign or whether you're Scottish, and take it to the other team. And in terms of foreigners, where else is Hearts going to go? And then the English lower league sides are selling their players for like 10, 15 million to Premiership sides. It's difficult where you go and get good players from.
Yeah, again, I think a lot of what we're saying tonight is all sort of, we all seem to be on the same sort of wavelength, and I think the supporters, once they get away from that initial 24 to 48 hours after a result like last night and a performance as poor as it was, will probably be able to start to maybe look long term again. I think it's hard to see that. It's hard to see the wood for the trees when you're just coming out the ground, and I'm as guilty as the next person for being like that. You know, you sit there and you're starting to think, oh, what do we do summer? What do we do for the next derby? But really, if you look at, in terms of that 5-year plan that we went in with back in 2014, it involved promotion within the first 2 years. It involved stability, rebuilding the stadium, getting things right off the park with youth development. And to be fair, losing derby games is such a drop in the ocean compared to everything else we've got right. Now, that's difficult to have that mindset last night or even in the first 24 hours after a game like that. But I do think there is a little bit of just taking a couple of steps back and just trying to, you know, take last night for what it was. Again, moving on to the sort of player side of things, Gordon, what I'm finding quite interesting is, you know, up until last night, there was a lot of talk about, we need to hand Struna a long-term contract. Julius, you know, Avlanitis. Do you think, again, there's just a little bit of sort of knee-jerk reactions with regards to that? Or do you think that we were maybe just a little bit too hasty and maybe praising these players after one or two decent games?
I think we were definitely guilty thinking these guys are the real deal. I think Struna and probably Julius is the real deal. I'm very guilty of, well, I've actually watched the goals again, so I think how guilty I really am. Avlanitis was, if somebody says, show me a video of somebody ball watching, I would show you that first goal last night. Shinnie picked the ball up on the halfway line, ran 20 yards, and Avlanitis took maybe 2 steps backwards while facing the ball, and Cummins ran 20 yards off him. And it was an easy pass for Shinnie to find them. Also, for the second goal, I suppose Avlanitis had to follow Cummins out there, but it was easy beat. And it was him again. It was easy beat by Shinnie for the third goal. So I've not really been impressed with him. Actually, I've got to be honest with you. And I was wondering on the bus going home last night what Novak did to get dropped. He opened the scoring against Rangers, had quite a good game against Rangers. One bad pass back that Wycon intercepted. But Alonitis, for me, I'm not sure about going further forward. Martin, he's got a 3.5-year deal. He's going to have to get his arson gear, for want of a better expression, and start showing why he's got a 3.5-year deal. I know he had a fitness issue when he first arrived. As often happens, he's probably not played through the winter coming from Norway. But he's definitely got to start pulling out a performance or two to show why we've got him for 3.5 years.
I mean, I think what I'd like to do next, guys, is maybe just leave it to you both to maybe just pick a certain player that you want to highlight on for last night, because I think everyone's got their own ideas to where things were going wrong. I would personally, again, I think it needs to be highlighted that Perry Kitchen's not performing his role. I remember playing away to Dundee last year when he first came on. He played 20 minutes that day, came on, and he was barking instructions. He was telling other players where to be at certain points of the game. Now, since he's been given that captain's armband, I've actually seen him grow more and more into his shell, and he just doesn't seem to be not half the player, because I still think he's a decent player, but half the sort of leader that I thought he was going to grow into at Hearts. He was also very culpable for the second goal. It's him that's actually playing Holt on side, which is how he's ended up behind his back line. If he's going to be there, he needs to track the run and actually be the one making the tackle, but he's actually just standing in the middle of the box, just looking lost. Scott, if I could go back to you first, which player in particular sort of felt, really let you down last night?
I could be here all night with that one, Scott. For me, I was going to actually, I don't think any player will go out there and perform badly on purpose, or I wouldn't like to think that they would. But Martin, the lad's got a 3.5-year deal, and I said it on the review with Craig, the Hibs fan, dead ball specialist, dead beat specialist. I'd put him down as. He just wasn't in it. He just looked like, he didn't want to be there. The game was passing him by. He wasn't doing anything. And even when he got, into he's a dead ball specialist, didn't beat his first man. Couldn't even get a corner in. Absolutely terrible. I don't think if he lived to play to 100, he couldn't have a worse game than he did last night.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was surprised to see him start. I suppose having Don Cowie out for the press conferences was to try and throw Hibs off the scent where we were going with our team selection. I think in terms of formation, a lot of us were pretty much, quite fairly happy with 4-2-3-1, but I think most of us had sort of Cowie or Nicholson sort of playing in there instead of Martin. Based on how he had performed the last sort of 2 or 3 games, he'd been brought off early doors and he was looking 1 or 2 yards off the pace. So that was an immediate concern as soon as he was seen in the sort of team sheets. Along with, when you look at the Hibs team, they went very sort of 4-2, 2 wide men, and as soon as Humphrey got injured, the switch boiled over. So clearly they saw Sola as being a weak link as well, which again I think I've highlighted on that in recent weeks. I do think that's probably another area that we're going to have to try and address again in the summer. It feels like we've been doing that the last 2 or 3 years with regards to our left backs. But Gordon, with regards to the players again, a lot of people have touched on, obviously Rory Curry when he came on at half time and how that seemed to help us stretch Hibs a little bit more and get Fontaine and McGregor turning at least at times. Do you think that maybe that's something that we should be considering sort of going in towards these league games now, considering that, second, third, fourth spot, there's not a huge deal in it with regards to money or even where you're placing us in the Europa League qualifiers? Do you think it's now time to give him more of a run in?
Absolutely. I was actually, even when he came on last night, I was thinking, oh my word, here we go, a young boy to do a man's job again. And you've got to say, he absolutely impressed. He was he was preventing the Hibs playing easy passes out from the back. He was chasing lost causes, and he did cause them bother. I can remember, you might highlight a player as well at the end of the first half. The ball went up and it came back again, and I just screamed at the top of my voice, just hold one up, Goncalves. Just one ball that goes forward, just hold one up and shows that there might be some hope for the second half. I thought he was poor, and obviously you're right. They targeted Soa. He absolutely targeted Soa. I thought Humphrey going off actually didn't do us any favours. I thought it did them a favour, more bringing on a more central guy. Because when I saw their team, I thought to myself, well, they've left us a wee bit of space here if we can get the ball off them. They've only got two guys sitting in the middle of the park. So yeah, Curry was very encouraging, and yes, I would definitely be thinking about starting on Saturday. Yeah.
And Scott, what about you? What changes do you think we need to make, if any, with regards to sort of the upcoming couple of league games? Would you make wholesale changes, or would you give these guys at least a chance to sort of, they will show that you are hurt? You know, there's been a lot of guys on Twitter recently today talking about how they're hurting Cathro after the game, Walker after the game, but really that's just words. Would you give these guys a chance to maybe come out and prove that was just a bad day at the office, or would you plan on making a few changes straight away?
I think for the next match, yeah, I think it has to be near enough the same side. Big changes, we're stuck with some players for 3.5 years. They're on good money. They're not going anywhere. So we have to try and get the best out of them as what we can. I think he's got a big decision to make. I think he needs to start going back to basics. I think he said it. I might have got this wrong, but I think he was sort of alluding to not being as far forward in progression as we think we are. Yeah, go back to basics. The defence was all over the place. They were let down by the midfield. Midfield, everyone just wandered right through them. They weren't supplying the striker. They weren't protecting the back four. The back four were passing it on to the goalkeeper. A bit of a mess. Let's just go forward to the next game. Let's try and put something right, and let's try and work from the back, and then try and put it right from there in terms of keeping a clean sheet, and then see where we go. In terms of, I'd like to see, and I don't think it'd happen if we're going to make any changes, I'd like to see one or two youngsters starting to come in and sit on the bench and maybe start to get a game or part of a game before the season finishes, and try and blood one or two more. I mean, Curry led the way yesterday. And
we've only briefly touched on Craig Levein. We've obviously mentioned his feelings towards him, at least as a player. Me personally, I think he's built up enough goodwill as a player and a manager in the past to allow him to move on with what he's trying to do with the youth development. With regards to other aspects of the job, recruitment in mums has been poor, and I think that's something that does need to be addressed. But I think it was shown in January that Cathro is maybe going to have a little bit more influence on that compared to maybe Robbie Nielsen during the last couple of seasons. How do you guys feel with regards to this model that we're working under? Given that last night's happened, and given that we're not seeing much improvement in terms of, our cup record and our record and sort of approach to these big matches, do you still feel confident in the way in which Craig Levein's running the club, generally speaking? Gordon, I'll go to you first.
Confident in the way Levein's running the club is. He's got his ideas. Craig Levein's a very, very strong-minded person, so I'm sure he's not going to settle himself until he gets some satisfaction at what he's trying to do. In terms of the games that you're talking about there, I mean, it really irks me that our most impressive cup result this season was narrowly getting beat with St Johnstone. It was probably been like that for the last couple of seasons, although we've been a wee bit unlucky with draws. We've got Celtic in a couple of them. But I think, as I touched on earlier, unless we start games like we did against Aberdeen in the cup last year, or like we did against Rangers a few weeks ago, get a goal in the first 5 minutes when we're on the front foot, we are just continually feeling our way into games, and I think that encourages the other team actually rather than us sometimes. But yeah, to go at it, Craig Levein is a strong-minded individual, and I'm sure, given time, he'll get what he wants, what he's aiming for, because that's just the way Craig Levein always was and is.
What do you think about that, Scott?
I think it's difficult in terms. I can see in terms of where the club's run. Yeah, everything's coming along ground. Everything's sort of coming into place. I think if you bring a manager, maybe I'm old-fashioned. I think when you bring a manager in, the manager's got his own ideas, and he'll have his own targets as to who he thinks will slip into his format, the way that he wants to play. And if I'm showing my age now, but if you're asking for a Sierra Cosworth, and the chairman or whoever's who's in charge of the budget buys you a Sierra 1.3 L, then you've got to work with that, and it's difficult because you're the one that's going to be getting the stick. So I'd like to see, like I said, I'd like to see the gaffer putting on the table who he wants, whether it's foreign, whether he's going all over the world, to get different players. And I'd like to see him judged on the players that he wants. Like I said, there's people that have been bought. I'd like to know he's sanctioned them. And they're on the books for the next 3.5 years, and it's going to be difficult.
Fair enough. Well, I think we've probably, for me, it wasn't really a game that you could pick away at minute by minute and try and analyse, because it really just was that poor. I think it was more to do with mentality and where we are currently as a group of individuals within that club. I think what I'd like to sort of try and end the show with tonight, and by the way, just for the listeners and viewers, this isn't something that I've asked them before the show to think of, so I'm landing this at your feet. If you could say anything or make a plea to the Hearts fans just now, given that there does seem to be a big division between where they want to go the club forward, what would you say to them tonight? Scott, I'm going to start with you just purely because you're rubbing your head and you look like you're trying to think of something. You can go first, buddy.
It's easy for me to say. I want fans to stay to the end. I want fans to sing. I want fans to encourage. It's difficult when you pay your money. I know I work hard for a living, and a lot of fans do. And you pay your money, and you travel across the country a lot of the time to go to these matches. And you're entitled to your opinion, but I think it's hard for players when you're being booed off. So just let's get behind it. Let's not forget, where Hearts were a few seasons ago, and how far we've come. And I think getting that culture right starts not just with fans and the club. It starts with us as well. We know that the Hearts fans know what it means. They know what this badge means, and that is our responsibility as well to get that over to the players. And I think the players that will be reading the papers today and watching social media or wherever else they get their information from will be under no illusion how much they have let the fans down. So I think we have a responsibility to turn up on Saturday and give it our all to make sure that we get a result.
Fair enough. And Gordon, can you stop that?
No. Honestly, see if they'd played the night, they'd have got booed out. Never mind booed in at half time. But yeah, I've got to echo what Scott says, yeah, right? You've got to try and stay behind them as much as possible. I don't like the booing off half time. I didn't boo the team off at half time and full time. I'm basically a Hearts supporter, and just all I want is it for us to win and everybody to be happy. Saturday's going to be difficult to get up for a game at Partick Thistle. I don't know how many tickets we've sold, but yeah, just get through that. I'm not going, as you know. Got offered a free ticket for Scotland Wales egg chasing last night, so that would be a good chance that I'll be at that. So yeah, good luck on Saturday, guys, and just give them all their back. And you can. It's going to be very difficult from a fan's point of view to get the morale up for the remainder of this season, because that's for the second season running it's been killed so dead at Easter Road.
Yeah, I think what Scott touched on there with regards to fans being entitled to their opinion, I think that's right. I think all we can do is sort of plead. It's not a case of trying to preach or tell people what to do. And, clearly the near 4,000 people that were in that ground last night were there on merit. You know, that's everyone that's got loyalty points and everyone who follows Hearts generally through thick and thin. I think where I sometimes lose a bit of patience is when people can't. For me, I define my love of Hearts through my love of the club and not my contempt of another. And I think some people have allowed themselves to be blinded by that sort of that hatred of Hibs to sometimes get in the way of their thinking in terms of long term. And I think that's what's affected us over the last sort of 12 months, you know, since that initial Scottish Cup run last year that was ended by Hibs. I think some fans are just so blinded by that and the fact that it was Hibs that have put us out now 3 times in the last 5 years that they're not allowing themselves to maybe just see this as an opportunity to, you know, let's see this as a club as a case of creating new memories. Let's not go back to that comfort blanket of 2012. Let's hopefully see this club grow and actually, you know, start pushing for trophies, pushing for league positions, you know, whether that be second for first spot, and try and enjoy football again. I think since we won the championship, there's been an expectation placed on the club that we should be winning every week, and I don't think that's the case. You know, especially given the changes that have happened. So I just think, you know, take a couple of steps back and just see how it goes. And who knows, in a year's time, if it doesn't work, you can come back to me and you can have a shout and a moan at me because I've got it so horribly wrong. But I would rather be a little bit positive and get it wrong than just wishing it to be wrong, you know, for day 1 or day 40, whatever it is that Cathro's now in the job. So that would kind of be my plea, if anything, to the fans. Just try and stick with it. And, you know, you've paid your money now in terms of the season ticket. Try and enjoy yourself, you know. There's no point going there and just, you know, wanting Jack Hamilton to fail to that very first kick out. So, you know, try and stick with the guys as much as you can. As you guys have touched on earlier in the show tonight, no one's going out there with a malicious intent to play badly or not perform. And I'm sure it might not be hurting as much as it would be us, but I'm sure the players will be hurting because they've all got professional pride. And I'm sure, you know, we're bitty back and might be able to get that back over the next few games. We've got a good run of matches ahead of us, so just a case now we're trying to pick up as many points as we can and maybe try and overthrow Rangers with regards to that third spot. Any other business tonight, guys, that you want to maybe touch on at all?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine and dandy. Maybe mention the Facebook book.
Oh, I didn't want Gordon's wrath with regards to that. I know you caught up on that. That scored a couple of days ago, Scott. Yeah, we've got a new Facebook page that Gordon's kindly put together for us. So you'll be able to find that, just JamboFANTV. There's a link that we've put on our Twitter page, which is also at JamboFANTV, and you know, about the YouTube channel as well. So just, I know a lot of people don't generally have accounts with regards to YouTube. It's a fairly easy process. Just apply on it for a couple of minutes, and then you'll be able to subscribe to the channel, and that means that you're not having to get constant notifications from me on Twitter about how to get on the show. It just means that you'll get the notifications straight through to you. So I keep watching. It's been a pleasure doing this the last couple of weeks, and we're hoping to get new content on there. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Should say, if you can stand it, the Hibs TV coverage, the full match is up on YouTube.
Oh no, I can.
You've got a great penalty claim at 27 minutes. Jamie Walker took a great touch to go around Fontaine, and the boy just blocked his run, and he was getting in for a shot. But that's total clutching. Yeah, we were well beat last night. So.
You done well to leave that, by the way.
And I'll tell you, what you said about catching earlier on, I was clutching about the offside as well. And I saw him in the replay when I stopped the video at the still. Yeah. I was wanting to throttle him, I promise you. You're exactly right.
Well, thanks again for being on tonight, guys. And here's hoping that when we're doing our next show after Saturday, it's going to be a bit more positive. Cheers for watching.